Welcome to day 2 of the marketing track to everyone who is watching. I am Kendall Wright. I forgot my name, so that's how early it is where I'm at. So we're off to a great start. I am Kendall Wright, and I am the marketing track captain, along with Ramon Mendez, who some of you might have seen on the screen just a few minutes ago. We will both be kind of hanging out here if y'all need us, but today we are thrilled to be joined by these 4 video superstars. And after we spent the day yesterday kind of talking about what marketing consists of, what you look for, how you create your plans, how you decide where to use your resources, and what channels to go after from advertising or marketing or PR perspective. Now we're going to really dive in today to the content and to creating that and to experiencing that, publishing high quality stuff for startups. So we are thrilled to be joined. Can you guys see Eve, or is she just gone for me?
She's just gone from you. We can see her.
Yep.
I look incredible, Kendall. I'm so sorry you can't see me.
Well, I could see you until 2 seconds ago, so I just wanted to make sure your video didn't go out. But oh, there you are for me. Great. It's like the internet gods knew. I am thrilled to introduce you guys to Eve Mayer. She is the founder and owner of Eve Mayer Media. And I am going to turn it over to her to tell you about herself and to introduce some of her friends, and they will get started. And then I'll pop back in when there's about 5 minutes left in case there's any questions that people want to jump in. And you guys can feel free to answer the questions in the chat as needed. Otherwise, I'll go back through them at the end.
Thank you so much, Kendall. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're on your second or third coffee. The more coffee you drink, the cuter and smarter we get. So thank you for doing that. We're very excited. Welcome to Dallas Startup Week. And I myself am thrilled to be here because I am a serial entrepreneur. I have had, I don't really know at this point, 7 or 8 companies. I've been broke. I've been rich. I prefer rich, but wherever you're at right now, I've probably been there. So I'm so excited to be here today to talk specifically about video. I own a company called EveMayerMedia.com. I'd love for you to check it out. And we do video all over the world, on site and virtually a lot right now for companies of all sizes. But today I have with me a group that I think you could ask just about any question to. We have Sarah, Shahzad, and Levi, and we've come together because we know how brave you are to be owning and running or working at a startup. And we recognize that you probably have needs and questions and thoughts around video that you need answers to. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their company before we get started, so you can hear what kind of experience Dallas Startup Week has brought to the table. So let's start with Sarah.
Good morning, everybody. I'm super excited to be part of this panel with these rock stars and all you rock stars out there in the virtual DEC Dallas Startup Week world. My name is Sarah Metzen-Miller. I'm a principal and chief operating officer with 1820 Productions. We're an Emmy award-winning production company. We creatively and strategically help brands and businesses drive market share and awareness by creating visual concepts that help them to fit every unique need that they might have for their content. We work with ad agencies with their clients, creating commercials to sell products. We work direct with corporations that either have an agency of record or don't have an agency of record, and we create commercials and marketing videos to help increase brand awareness. And we work in the television space as well, creating content to that you might watch, that you've been watching during this pandemic on television or on whatever platform that you're using to stream content. A couple of examples for commercials right now, we've got spots running for Dallas Morning News. In the marketing space, we're working with the Veterans Land Board and have created some amazing, compelling pieces to help drive awareness, all the different great resources for veterans. And in the television space, we're working on 2 different television shows right now for BET, as well as another one in development for the Smithsonian Center. It's a little bit of, I'm just a servant at our company, helping this great creative team pull everything together.
Sarah, thank you so much. And please share the website of your company so people can check it out.
1820productions.com.
Thank you so much. All right, Shahzad, tell us all about you.
Good morning. I am excited and thrilled to be on this, to be part of this conversation. You know, Dallas Startup Week has a special place. 2 years ago, we launched one of our products at Dallas Startup Week, our DHD Giga with Cuban, and so we're big fans. And so we're a small studio based here in Dallas, but working globally, DHD Films. I started this firm 20 years ago, so this is our 20th anniversary. Gosh, I am one of the luckiest people alive because I work with incredibly passionate people. I see a few of those on the chat, Maddie and Hussein, and we've got an incredible team and awesome clients. And, you know, the 30-second elevator pitch is we help businesses and brands and nonprofits solve business problems. And I know, and startups as well. And so I'm excited about the conversation, and thanks for moderating, Eve.
And where can people check out your company?
DHDfilms.com.
Thank you so much, Shahzad. Listen, guys, I've known Sarah and Shahzad for years. They are the real deal. Their companies are just ridiculously amazing, and they really offer just a huge variety of what different organizations need at different points in their journey. So you should check them out. And now the really good, extra good looking guy on camera, who also happens to be upstairs and is my husband besides Shahzad, Levi Sauerbrei, who is known as Nerd Butler. Levi.
Sure. So Sarah described the panel as rock stars, and I actually think I'm more of the roadie. These guys are all brilliant entrepreneurs and create some amazing video products. As Eve mentioned, online, I'm mostly a content creator at this point under the name Nerd Butler. So nerdbutler.com, and that's the social handle as well. I've been in IT for over 20 years, and my goal most of the time is to help people understand what technology can do for them, what the technology they already have in their pocket can do for them, and to make smart buying decisions. So I think these guys they've convinced me. They're going to talk to you guys about the value of video as a marketing tool and the best way to go about implementing that. And if questions come up about, gosh, I haven't been funded yet, or I'm bootstrapping my company, or I don't think I can go into the studio for $15,000 and do some of these things, I'm happy to answer questions about, like, what if I have an iPhone? Like, is that enough? And what can I do with that? How far can I get with that? And when do I need to make that decision to invest in professional services and people who actually know what they're doing? So
much, Levi. And just so you guys know, we as a family have mostly been staying at home. Our daughter is doing homeschool, so I'm in my office downstairs, and Levi is in his nerd cave upstairs. And so this is where he will talk about like equipment that everyday people can use. So if you want to tweet me and send questions as well, you can do that at Eve Mayer Media. I'd love to hear your questions, and we're looking at the chat. And we're going to kick this off with Sarah. Sarah, can you talk a bit about why video is so important in telling a brand, product, or company story?
Yeah, it's actually critical. It's one of besides your website, which I still think is important that you have, and there are a lot of different resources to stand up a website quickly if you don't have a ton of money as a startup. There's a ton of ways, and we can, I know that's not what we're talking about today, but we certainly can help you with resources with that, or examples or places to go. But 40% of the time, people will respond better if you have visual element to support your context or your verbiage that's on your website. Posts that have video in conjunction with it. Viewers will 100% spend more time on your brand, with your brand, if you have video content to support what you have on your website. You can't anymore just have paper and hand out collateral type of materials and just have a website. People want to engage and see your brand and understand your brand in a unique way, in a different way, and what you stand for. And video content is the way you can really connect your brand with your target audience and provoke that target audience to act, whether it's to buy your product or be more aware of your brand. It's the simplest and best way to do that in a variety of different ways, from short content, and I know we'll get into that, to longer content and like a marketing video perspective. When people land on your website and there's a video there, 86% of the time, they're more likely to stay and dig deeper into your website, which is really ultimately what you want.
Sarah, thank you so much. Shahzad, in the past, when I've had a startup before I learned about video back in the day, I always had a lot of fear, right? Like as a startup in the beginning. Do you think that video really is appropriate and absolutely necessary for a startup? Or should they wait until they've been in business for a while, whether it's 6 months or a couple of years, to really have their messaging down? How do you overcome that fear, and should they overcome that fear?
That's a really good question, Eve. And I'll tell you, I like using case studies or success stories. And so I heard two questions. One is, can you afford, to do video as a startup? And the question I often ask if I'm sitting down with a startup founder is, can you afford not to, right? And number two, most startup founders are looking for funding. And, I think what we have to do in this conversation is broaden the outcomes that are delivered through video, right? If we just look at it as in its narrow view of marketing or advertising, right, or lead generation or sales enablement, I think that's a pretty narrow view of what storytelling can do for a startup, right? We have a startup that we've been working with since November of last year, and they raised Series A, $10 million out of New York City in April. So first week, the country was shut down. They raised $10 million from and I would say that the storytelling, the series of 6 videos that we created for them, had a big part because they were able to attract investors. They were able to attract talent, right? So I think marketing video serves a way bigger role, right? You need money, you need great talent, you need great customers, and a video will allow you to do all of those things.
May I tag on a little bit to Shahzad's response?
Yeah.
I guess it depends upon, there's 2 different types of startups, right? I am 100% with Shahzad in saying, if your startup is, you got funding and you got some great funding, you absolutely should have a line item in there for marketing, and a part of your marketing budget should be video content. No question, no doubt about it. If you are a startup and you haven't secured funding, or you're bootstrapping it yourself, then there are different levels of production that I know Levi can help to support the discussion when you might switch into companies like ourselves, when you do things on your own. But there's 2 different startups, I think, in that world. And I am 1,000% with you, Shahzad, because we helped an established company, but that really had never bought into the concept of video. When she did a video project with us, we did commercials with us. She saw a 50% increase in her website traffic and a 20% increase in her sales in a 3-month window of time. So it works. It just depends upon how much, where you're at in that startup level and how much money you have to line item into marketing. And as you've got funding, you absolutely better line item marketing into your funding. We highly recommend that.
I love that.
Yeah, and I would add to what Shahzad said as well. One of the areas he didn't mention, but I'm sure is included here, is customer service. So if you have not just product demonstration as an explainer, but if you have an FAQ page on your website, there is an opportunity there for you to have your support staff or the head of one of the departments do a quick video about a problem that you've answered, a question you've answered a lot. We were working with an at-home blood test company, and we were trying to do some work for them around It was like an influencer operation where we were going to do some testimonial videos. And I wrote back and said, I can't use your product. Like, I can't get the blood out of my finger. And they said, oh, well, one of our other influencers did a video showing, you know, you got to wash your hands this way and then do it immediately and blah, blah, blah. But watching that video solved the problem I'd been trying to solve for a week and a half. So if you have, you know, almost everybody has Zoom or Google Meet or something now where you can record it and share your screen. And we'll talk more about, you know, when production values matter and when you can just, you know, do a quick Zoom call and record it and post that as the video. And there's some brand consistency you can do with that. But again, it should be part of your plan at the beginning, and it should be a line item in your budget, maybe not just in the marketing department, maybe not just in the sales department, but think about it across your organization.
Yeah, thank you guys for sharing that. I'll be honest. I've always been the kind of entrepreneur who bootstrapped and was broke and has no idea how to go out and raise funding. And I always thought about video for marketing, and I thought about video for customer service. But I think if you're looking at raising funding, I think reaching out to Shahzad or Sarah and talking to their companies about video specifically for that is really something to consider. Because I just, you know, I've been doing this forever, and I really just have never had that experience. And I've heard some of the stories from both of you, the way that you've supported startups and helped them tell their story and help them raise funding. So I wish I would have known y'all back, you know, 15 years ago and done that back then. I would have been, this would happen a lot quicker. So let's talk about, before we get into like at what point people should start spending money or doing it themselves and products and all that, let's talk Shahzad and Sarah. I'd like you to give your opinion on video length, right? Like we hear so much, like it should be less than 30 seconds. People have no, less sense of watching something than less than a goldfish or something. And then people are like, yeah, actually 1:30 videos are doing better now. Can you talk about what you suggest for videos when they have a different need for length, depending on where they're being viewed and how they're being used?
Sure.
Sarah, please.
I'll start, and then we'll all talk together. From a social perspective, we're recommending 6-second, 15-second. If you're getting into, you can do 30s if you've done a commercial, you can do 30s in your social space. But that's, you know, people's attention span is lesser in the social space. If you don't grab their attention within the first 2 to 3 seconds, you might more than likely will miss them. However, you can really truly tell a compelling story in 6 seconds and 15 seconds. So that's what we're recommending in the social space. And then in the marketing video space, not longer than 90 seconds. I know a lot of, especially in the nonprofit world, because we work with a lot of great nonprofits in this community, they want to do 3-minute, 5-minute, and 10-minute videos. It is not something that we recommend unless you want it as a longer format version on maybe your YouTube page or in the Vimeo space, but a shorter content that's really grabbing people's attention. I will also highly recommend, if you move into the space of using a company like any of the 3 of ours mentioned here, to leverage your dollar, your marketing dollar. If you are doing a longer format video, like a 90-second, have this team or one of our teams or whoever you choose help you think strategically through what a 15-second would look like, what a 30-second would look like, what a 6-second would look like, so you can maximize the marketing dollar that you're spending at one time, as opposed to having to continually go back to the well. Try to figure it out strategically with your partner at that time. And if you're like bootstrapping it, like we all have done when we first started, do a solid 10, 15 second. Test market it with your friends, with your family, based on if you're wanting to go funny or more dramatic or what you're trying to do. Just do a solid 15 seconds to get it into the social space.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And Shahzad, a few questions have come up that I'd love for you to address about video length. Justin says, I feel like video length is subjective depending on the product and the target demo. And Danielle says, what about those short 6 to 15 second videos as a teaser to share on LinkedIn with a link to a longer version on YouTube? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I think both Justin and Danielle are up to something. And Sarah, I'd love what I heard in what you said is think about it as a campaign instead of a video, right? It's got, You know what? I can tell you one of the best things that as a business owner, as a brand, as a story, if we could just change the term video to story or storytelling, the game changes, right? And what I mean by this is think about it as a narrative, right? And so if I want to tell this story about a new product or new service or a new team member, right? There are multiple ways, and the platform will dictate the length, right? But don't be afraid of it's going to be too long, because I'll tell you, I've clicked out of a 30-second spot that didn't capture me, right? And I've watched 30-minute long form pieces all on the same platform, like LinkedIn. So I think if we were to ask the viewers, I think it's all about how compelling it is, how relevant it is, right? And think about it as a campaign. And the last thought I have around this is if we can start with the results in mind, right? So what are the business results, outcomes that we're trying to deliver? To me, video is a tool, right? Just like a website, it's a tool. As long as we can map it back to the outcomes that we're trying to deliver on, I think that will help us frame it.
Really, it's just odd because who would have thought we would have watched Tiger King? I mean, I would never thought that I would have watched longer than 5 minutes of the Tiger King, but I watched every episode. So you're absolutely right about that.
We're all content starved at this point.
I was so disturbed after episode 2. I couldn't do it. I think I just drunk more alcohol to get through it. And I couldn't do it. But the world has changed. I think you bring up an interesting point, sir, that we watched Tiger King. I don't know about y'all, but since the pandemic has started, I am more desperate, right? Because I'm at home more with my lovely, perfect family all the time, right? Like all the time. I'm not hugging my friends. I'm not out, and it makes me consume more media because I'm looking for entertainment. I'm looking for something to do. And we have sat here and watched the world, specifically on video. I see Levi watch ESPN in the morning, which, let me be clear, I don't care about sports, but seeing these people just sit here when there's so little sports happening from their bedroom now or their living room, like we are doing right now, the whole wall of professionalism and the high level of video we used to have before COVID has been completely changed, right? And I think that this opens up this huge opportunity for really quality video to break through. It levels the playing field for startups to step forward with what Shahzad's saying, with compelling storytelling and content that people actually give a darn about. And I think it's like a big opportunity to really reach people because we're bored and we're looking for entertainment. And we've leveled the playing field with people on ESPN having the same setups that a lot of us all have right now. It has been shocking to watch the world change so quickly when it comes to video and storytelling in front of our eyes. I know, Levi, you have some opinions on this, I think.
No, I agree. And I think, we've kind of broken down the barriers, as you said, between professional and personal, and everyone now is an opportunity. And I think the standards for production value going forward are going to be permanently changed. There's always a place for studio produced video. There's always a place for well edited video. I think there is now also room at the table for this new format that we're seeing evolve. And I want to jump back to a couple of things I saw in the chat. Erica and Ruben were asking some questions about, from a bootstrapper standpoint, how do I get started? Like what's the editing software, et cetera. Several people have mentioned Canva, and I want to point out that Canva has really stepped up their game in terms of the functionality. If you're not familiar with it, it is a freemium, free, plus there's a subscription model graphics editing platform. If you are making these 6 to 15-second videos that we're talking about, it's also a video editing platform. And you can absolutely record a clip on your phone, upload that clip to Canva on the app on your phone, slap it together with some extra graphics and your logo that you've uploaded as well, and come out with a video that has been edited together. I would not do a 30-minute documentary or product demo with editing it in Canva, certainly. But for the social videos, Canva is absolutely worthwhile. There's other options out there. I like a company called Wondershare. Free products are free for a reason. And I always recommend paying for stuff. I think the biggest thing, if you are, a 1 or 2 person operation, or if you're bootstrapping, it's not the tool. Like a subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud is a reasonable expense for almost any business, even if you're bootstrapping. The problem is the expertise and the time you're going to spend to learn how to use the tool effectively, as opposed to outsourcing the editing. So there are some tools like Wondershare that are pretty straightforward, but you're still going to have to overcome a learning curve about the basics of video editing and take a course on LinkedIn or something. So what you have to decide is it worth your time as the founder or your staff's time to acquire a skill that in 6 months or a year, once you get funded, once you clear that next financial hurdle, you're not going to need anymore? And I think that's the question you have to ask first.
Yeah, Levi, thanks so much. Listen, we're going to come back to you a little bit later about what tools people should look at if they, have the $0 budget and how they can do that. I think you're going to have a list for that you're going to provide to people. But I want to talk about like when you decide when you should be doing this yourself and when is the tipping point of hiring a company to support your video marketing. I think Sarah and Shahzad have brought up some really compelling points of perhaps looking at it earlier if you're looking for funding and you're exploring that way and using video as a tool. So I'm going to talk to you really quickly, specifically about this, because I, as a business person, want to hear numbers. Like, just tell me the number. How much money do I need to walk into a video company? And so I'll tell you, for Eve Mayer Media, and we do videos for small companies and Fortune 500 companies. We hope, I'll just be completely honest with you, we hope that people don't call us unless they have a minimum of $5,000 to spend. Like, it's tough to pay our people and use our studio if they don't have $5,000. And I'll tell you clearly, the range of our projects are between $5,000 and $100,000. I would venture to say that DHG Films and 1820 Productions are really savvy, really professional, broadcast quality TV. We do a lot of online video and very little of that. So it's just like a car, right? Like, you can spend $500 on a car or $5 million. Well, I don't know if you can spend $5 million, but maybe you can, right? $500,000 on a car,
I'm
right?
sure Levi could figure it out.
I'm sure Levi could, right? No, we drive a camper van. Come on, Shahzad, that's not happening. But, it completely has a range for that. But I'll tell you personally, I would suggest, if you don't have funding and it doesn't look like you're going to have funding and you're broke and you're starting a new company because you got laid off like millions of people have recently, and I've been there, then use Levi's list, do your own thing. It's nerdbutler.com, where he's going to put a list of things you should do. And then my suggestion would be, for me personally, and I want to hear Shahzad and Sarah's opinion on when you start looking at it. You have $5,000, and like Levi said, you don't have the time to take the class, and that time would be better spent not on learning video marketing, but on running your business. Then you go talk to a video company that you trust. I would suggest trying to find somebody who's local, because I still like having that possibility. Right now, we're all mostly virtual, but I think all of us really love working with people in person and plan to continue to get back to that. And all of these companies have systems right now during COVID to do very professional, safe filmings, either on location or at their studio. So that's really important right now too. So, those are my thoughts on it. And I just want to put a number out there because I think people want to hear that number. Like, just tell me the number. Like, am I going to get laughed at if I call? Like, I had a lady one time who had $9,000 she had saved up for the year to do a marketing video for her site, but she felt uncomfortable. Like, she felt like that was very little money. I'm like, no, that's a great budget. We can absolutely accomplish this. It's wonderful. But we all just like get so uncomfortable saying dollar amounts, right? So I would say, personally, don't call a video company until you have $5,000. That's my advice. But Sarah and Rod, you probably have more eloquent ways to.
No, I don't know if it's more eloquent, but I'll just add on to it. I think what you said, Eve, is a great starting point. We work on small and large projects. We work on everything in between. It's based on capacity with what we also already have in-house. For nonprofits, we always give a discount anyway. I mean, everybody on this call does that, right? So it really all depends upon the project, what we have in-house, but we work from your budget and all the way up and everything in between, because we do a lot of digital stuff as well as is, every stuff just for website, etc. I think that is what's important that you just mentioned, Eve, is if you have a number, tell the company what the number is. It's better for you and for us if you come in saying, this is what I have, and then it will allow the team to come up with a creative that will support your budget. You might be thinking, if I tell you the budget, that you're not going to give me something great. That's actually not the case. You give us then the freedom, if we know what the number is, to really create something amazing for you within that space. Additionally, if you tell us what your number is and it's not something that our team can do, we will, everybody on this call, because Dallas is a unique community, we will help you find somebody to support you within the budget range that you have. But you have to tell us where you're at, right? And that it is unique to Dallas. It doesn't happen in every city across the country. People are more giving here and supportive of everybody trying to build their businesses, right? So if you tell us, I've got 5,000, and if we can't do it in-house based on, you want a helicopter or whatever, right? If we can't do it in-house, we might know somebody that's got a drone and really could do that and could really do it for $4,500, right? But it's really helpful to kind of know where you're at.
Absolutely. Eve, you guys have really hit it. Sarah, I think it's really liberating for a client or prospect. Once I mean, that's one of the conversations that I will have is, give me a budgetary parameter, right? Because that allows us to do a reality check, right? Because we can save time, because at the end of the day, it's, if you're launching in 3 months, like, let's cut to figure out, who's going to be the best partner for you. As I reflect back on what are some of the biggest successes we've had with startups, the client that comes to mind, and somebody from that team, Reward Style, right? Dallas-based unicorn. We've been working with them over 5 years now. I think what excites us as storytellers is to see the art of the possible, right? And so I would say, let's not just focus on, you want to do a video. Tell me about your startup. Tell me your goals, your aspirations, and we will often figure out a business arrangement that allows you to do things that would normally not fit in your budget, but based on performance. I mean, as a matter of fact, we've got a startup that is launching September 28th, and a big part of our compensation is tied to their goals. Right. I can't speak. I don't know if other companies will do that, but we will structure, right, some of those budgets around performance. So that's one. But at the end of the day, I get excited about working with, a company who's just starting off, and 3 years later, they're $1 billion valuation, right? I mean, just 2 or 3 weeks ago, we worked with Reward Style, and they had 9,000 influencers on a virtual event, and we created a 30-second spot. I remember vividly us creating their first app explainer, right? And so that's the power of great storytelling, I think, is that journey. And so I think a good partner is wanting to go on that ride with you as a startup.
Thank you guys so much. I think, as you can see, Shahzad, Sarah, Levi, and I believe in one thing. We believe that this world, and particularly Dallas, is a world of abundance. And if you reach out to one of these people and you have a question, they're going to do their best to answer that question. But I love the advice here, because if you just tell a video team what your budget is, they're going to bend over backwards to give you absolutely as much as they can for that budget. Whereas if you go in and you just say, I want to do this and I want to do this, they're trying to look at you and figure out, like, how can I help them? Man, is this number I'm going to give them offensive? Are they not in that spot yet? Is it too much? Like, they can't figure out how to serve you best. So, like, my suggestion would be, find somebody you trust, be open with them, and tell them what you want to accomplish. And you'll find the right team for that, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think,
if I could just say one more thing, an analogy I like to use is, to me, a conversation around budget is the size of a canvas. That's all it is. Are we working with a 12 by 12, or are we working with a 60 by 40 by 60, right? That doesn't mean you can't have a beautiful piece of art created on 12 by 12, right? And that doesn't mean you can have something that you're not proud of created. So I think people need to get out of the mindset of budget translates to quality or effectiveness, right? It's just be transparent and and expect that in return from your partner.
Yeah. Thank you, Shahzad. I'd like you to speak to people right now about if they have just started up, they have $0. They're starting up this new company, and I've been there many times, and they want to do video on their cell phone. Where can they find the list? What do you suggest that they start off with? Sure.
I will drop a shameless plug into the chat just because I can. I just put this blog post up yesterday, and it was video on a budget. First, I like to give people a little bit of criteria, similar to what everyone else is saying about what is your budget. So if you're going to do it yourself and you think you've got the skills and the time and the whatever. So for instance, buying a camera, should you buy a camera? I'm using a Panasonic camera right now. It looks significantly different than a webcam or even a smartphone would. But what I tell people is, if you're not willing to spend more on a camera than you spent on the phone you already have, you should absolutely just stick with the phone, right? If you have a phone that's less than 3 years old, 4K. And the other thing I tell people is, especially if you're doing social video, but even on YouTube, 4K doesn't matter right now. Go tell your story in HD. It's going to be easier to edit. The file sizes are going to be smaller. Everything about that process is going to be easier. And most people are going to watch your video on a phone anyway. 4K is not like, we can all get wrapped up in, I need a 5G phone. I need 4K video. There are 8K cameras out there. They cost $50,000. Like, that's not what we're talking about. Pick up your iPhone and start shooting. The first thing you should do is get a microphone, an external microphone. If you can sit in a perfectly quiet room, your iPhone mics will be fine. But if there's any noise at all, you want to get a better mic. The mic I'm using today is $60. Now I'm hooking this to my computer, right? But it changes. Audio to me is the most important thing at the beginning of your video journey. The second thing is lighting. The sun shines. Stand outside. Right. Like, try not to be under direct fluorescence. The link I put in there has some talk about, how to use a ring light, how to buy an inexpensive lighting kit, but audio first, lighting second. And then the camera should not move. If you're doing this yourself, put it on a tripod or prop it up on a bookcase and just talk to it. Don't hand the phone to your teenager and try and record the next Bourne action sequence while you're trying to talk about your product or your company. No one wants to see that. No one's going to stick around for that. So, yeah, those are the three basic things. Like, get an extra mic. And yes, Justin, it is the Audio-Technica 2100. I have a couple of them. They're great. They're USB. And when you upgrade your stuff, so I'm using a mixing board from Rode. It's also XLR. You can plug it into your more advanced equipment as you step up that ladder. But take the phone out and start doing it. Get comfortable in front of the camera. That's where you got to start, and then add a microphone, and then maybe add a light, buy a tripod right away. But all of that stuff is that's $100 investment, right? To get you started. If you're not comfortable being on camera, find somebody who is, that can talk about your company, and just point it at them and get going.
Thank you, Levi. Y'all can check him out. He put a link in the chat. Here's the thing too, just a few bits of advice to people who are worried about starting to do video. Stop waiting until you lose 10 more pounds. I don't know when that's going to happen. And if I had waited for that, it would have been many, many, many years. Okay. I don't know if you've had the COVID-15 experience, but don't wait for that. All right. Stop waiting until you can get your hair colored or you grow hair back because you went bald. Stop waiting to have a perfect radio voice. Just stop waiting to be perfect. Nobody wants to see perfect. Perfect makes us feel really bad about ourselves. We want to see real people who are intelligent and or funny and or attractive and or compelling and or earnest talk to us because we can relate to those people. So stop waiting for your perfect day because it's never coming. So that's my thing for today. All right, let's go to some questions.
So Eve, if you want to, if you're worried about that 15 or 19 pounds gain during COVID, you can do what I just did, which is do 4x3, take a 16x9, and compress it. That takes.
Is that why you're looking even skinnier, Shahzad?
That's what it is.
Shahzad. Okay, so yes, go see Shahzad, and he'll make you look skinny.
And I add one more thing to some of the things that Levi was saying. If for those those additional nerds out there that want to continue their learning in editing and want to advance their learning, you can go get free lit courses on lynda.com. If you have a library card, if you don't have a library card, go to your local library. They need your support anyway. And you can get a library card for free. Where I live, my library offers free Lynda courses. It's Lynda, LYNDA.com. So if you're wanting to learn anything really, and if you're wanting to advance your editing skills, that's a free way to do it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. All right, Sarah, Chantel would like to know, she says, my target audience is Gen Z and millennials, and they're a part of the on-demand era. How do we get so much in a video to capture them within the first 2 to 3 seconds?
It's the visuals, like, and I hear feedback, so I'm sorry if I'm messing it up. It's your first or second, it's your logo being maybe a little animated. It's your first visual that you give them that would draw them in. It's also music that you might select. Those kind of 3 things in combination draw people in to the 6 seconds and the 15 seconds we've found.
Thank you, Sarah.
And yes, your thumbnail is important to draw people in from a visual perspective. So whatever you choose as your thumbnail, make it impactful.
Love it. All right, Shahzad, Sai would like to know, they have a video length of 2 minutes, 15 seconds breakdowning the startup. The question is, how do we put the whole 2 minute, 15 second video into less than 30 seconds?
I think this person, Sai, is up to something, because the shorter, the more challenging it is, right? It's way more challenging. I wouldn't say difficult, but challenging to tell a compelling story in 30 seconds than in 3 minutes, right? So, and often people think the longer the video, the higher the budget. That's absolutely not true. I would say pick and choose. I think that the fallacy is let's include 5 seconds about this and 5 seconds about this and 5 seconds about this. I would say treat that 30-second as a trailer, perhaps a teaser to the 3 minute or 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So, if you've got 3 talking heads in a 2 minute, 15 second, maybe one's a customer, one's an employee, and one is a founder, pick one of those, and just make it compelling. And, why does somebody want to work with you? And then let that serve as somebody, that video should lead somebody to want to watch a longer version. And that's true whether it's 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 15 seconds.
Got it. Thank you, Shahzad. And Sarah, we have another question. What's the group's thought on viral videos? Is there true value in it outside of brand awareness?
Yeah, I think there's value in it, but people, I think, throw around the word viral video and maybe in a wrong way. Just because you are creating a video doesn't mean it's going to go viral. And there is some rhyme or reason to it, but not necessarily rhyme or reason to it, right? And everybody hopes that whatever they create will get into a viral space and blow up, but that doesn't always mean it will. So I wouldn't be creating a video in hopes that it will go viral. Create the video to tell your story, and that hopefully it will resonate with your target audience.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I would add to that. Your target audience is important. Viral, as Sarah said, is really subjective. If you are a B2B company and you're in a very niche industry, you need the right 50 people to see it, right? You need 50 decision makers. So it's just like any other piece of your marketing toolbox. And the way you get it in front of them is maybe you're buying an ad on LinkedIn that's going to target those decision makers. If you're an influencer, if you're a content creator and that is your business, a viral video is what you aspire to. But unless you're in the media or content creation business, meaning you are monetizing these videos, you are monetizing your content itself, unless you're in that group, all of your marketing content should serve the cause of the company, So if you are someone calling up a video production company and saying, I need a viral video, that's the wrong statement to make.
Yeah.
I need a video that's going to further my marketing goals. Okay, what are your marketing goals? And now let's sit down and figure out the best way to tell that story within your budget.
Yeah.
Levi, Allison asks, she says, I have done exactly what Levi Sauerbrei mentioned, record Zoom interviews, edit an iMovie, add a Canva intro and outro, but I don't love the quality of the recording though. Do you recommend any other alternative platforms to record an interview and do light editing in one place?
Not necessarily in one place. I know Snagit as a screen capture software has been around forever, and they're very well thought of and affordable. I think, if I remember right, the Wondershare product I mentioned earlier, Filmora, will also do screen recordings. There's a couple settings in Zoom, but really any tool that's designed as video conferencing software is not going to give you the best quality in recording. It's going to be, for the tech heads, it's going to be 720p instead of 1080 full HD. It serves the purpose. And I do a lot of those kind of recordings when I have someone who says, man, I can't figure out why I can't log into this tool. And I'll just like grab it and send it off to them. But I think something like Snagit is a really effective tool, or other screen capture software, particularly if you don't need to appear in the video, like down in the corner, right? There's a lot of good tools out there that have been around for a long time.
Levi, a couple of people have responded to some of that, so you might want to check that out and also put the Snagit link in there in case you want to suggest that for people to go to. Denver says, spend a few days on TikTok. I lost to learn how to do short editing clips. That's like actually a really good bit of advice, because the things I see my 13-and-a-half-year-old watch are pretty compelling sometimes. Sarah or Shazad, why don't you talk to us about, Michelle would like to ask about scripting. Can you give us some tips on scripting? How important is that? And then Sarah, could you talk a bit about scripting as well?
Absolutely. So, you know, I'd say scripting could give you a feel of being overproduced. I would say, and going to the what are the goals, the outcomes? Maybe what you need is an outline more than a script, right? Because if we're talking about a customer testimonial or a success story, then I think you don't need a script for that, right? I mean, the minute you sit down, you know, it's like I was in a customer interview. I'm hearing myself again. But I would, you know, it's like we don't even share questions ahead of time when we're doing an interview, right? For an on-camera interview, because what we don't want is somebody, you know, coming overly produced, right? Because now they're trying to remember their answer that they've written out, right? We want it to be authentic. We want them to know the parameters of our conversation, right? And so I feel like scripting is the same way. It's probably more important for most storytelling projects to have an outline than a script. You know, in terms of storytelling, if we're talking about short films, then I'll certainly script. And Sarah's probably better suited to answer that.
I would agree with you what you said, Shazad. If it is a customer testimonial or something like that, what we like to get from the client is key message points that we need to make sure that we convey. And once we have those key message points, we'll turn them into questions to then ask back. We also do not send questions a week ahead of time before an interview. We might send them the night before or 2 days before, so they can become familiar but not memorize their answers. Now, if the question is that you are going to do like a testimonial about your product straight to camera, then what we recommend is maybe taking your 5 or 6 or 10 key message points and going to somebody like People Per Hour, which is a online service that's relatively inexpensive, and getting a copywriter to take your key message points and turn it into a script. Use one of those free apps that are free apps, free teleprompter, and on your phone, use one of those free apps for teleprompter and put your message or your script up. And I know Levi probably's got 20 different apps that he already recommends for that. So it depends upon which direction you're going. If it's testimonial for your product and it's more of a short film, 90-second marketing film, then we would use questions as opposed to a script. And if it is just you kind of giving a testimonial about your product, then I would write a script, do key message points, use a copywriter, turn it into strong message points so you don't miss anything, and then use a teleprompter app to get your message to make sure that you're conveying it strongly.
I would actually, I have tried like 8 or 9 teleprompter apps. And honestly, like if you're at that point in your journey where you're not quite yet into a studio, I would forego teleprompters entirely. That's another area where you're going to spend too much time for not enough result trying to tweak it and get the speed right. And what you really need is to be in a studio with a well-trained and qualified teleprompter operator guiding you through that. I've used apps where you set the speed. I've used apps where it's listening to your voice and trying to, figure out where you're at and keeping up with you. And they work okay. But particularly if you're a founder, if you're the person running the startup, you're already used to doing your elevator pitch. Looking into a lens and looking a potential investor in the eye are not that different. You just need to get used to this way of communicating. And do a little bit of practice, but you already have the content you really want to spit out there ready to go. And if you don't, just practice it 5 or 8 or 12 times like you're going to be doing a presentation on a stage somewhere until you get to the point where you can look right in the camera and say, you should give me all your money because, and have it be smooth. The teleprompter adds a level of complexity that you're going to have to get comfortable with. And Eve can talk about, I point over here where Eve is on my screen. Eve can talk about like what the difference looks like between a good teleprompter reader and a poor teleprompter reader.
Yeah, Shahzad and Sarah probably do a lot better at getting out of people. Let me just say it like this. Some people are really bad at using the teleprompter. Like you can see them word for word going across the screen and they turn into robots, and you got to spend a long time getting people comfortable with that. And these are pros that can do that. So, don't be scared of it.
Probably say that it's not that they're bad at reading a teleprompter. They just don't have the right tools. And so, Levi, I think what your advice, your last response is probably one of the most important things I've heard is teleprompter could give it an unreal feel, right? If it's not paced for you. And so, and I would say most videos don't require a teleprompter message, right? And so as long as we can recognize that, we've had people that have tried teleprompters, the iPad teleprompters on their own, and they hated it, and then they came in because a trained prompter operator solves that. They were able to do just great, right? And so, yeah, that's my advice is, just because you weren't able to deliver on a prompter and an iPad doesn't mean you're bad at it. Just work with a pro.
And I would even consider if it's something where the content you're trying to deliver is more narrative and kind of needs to be a little more polished, I would consider getting B-roll of your product, of your facility, of your team at work or whatever that is, and then doing a voiceover afterwards. Because then you can really control, and you can have the document right in front of you, and you can be watching the clip in your editing software and just talking about it. And you're going to be a lot. Again, I'm always coming at this from a do-it-yourself standpoint, but I know that the studios are going to do the same thing. They're just going to shoot better B-roll than you're probably going to shoot. But that works incredibly well. And the Filmora link I put in there, they actually have a button that says record voiceover. Like it can be that easy. So. None of us are going to be Spielberg. Now, Sarah and Shahzad might be Spielberg. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to be that. So I try all the tricks I can get to Shahzad's point to make it seem more natural. I tend to speak without taking a breath a lot of the time. And so if I'm reading from a teleprompter, it's pretty obvious, even if I can keep my eyes where they need to be.
Guys, as you can see, Sarah and Shahzad are lot sweeter than I am by saying that it's not that people are bad on teleprompters, it's that they need better tools. So you should totally talk to these guys. Like seriously, they're amazing and very, very sweet. So Jamila asked a question, which is when you are still small and lean, do you think it is better to focus on your individual brand or the company's social brand to attract your target audience? So I'll start with this one. For example, do I spend more time on my personal Twitter or the business Twitter? And Jamila, I'm sorry to say that the answer is it depends. I don't know what your business is. And if you can tell me what it is, I could help. So back in the day when I was first on Twitter, I guess that was like 11 years ago, I used it a lot to grow my business, and I did it by using my own voice. And at that time, I was a marketer. So it made sense to use Twitter and my theories and then write a book and then speak on those things. If your company is not being built on you as a personality, then it makes sense perhaps. And sometimes I look back and think, you know, at the same time I grew the company that I owned then, which was Social Media Delivered, which I sold a few years ago. I grew them simultaneously, but it was a lot easier to grow my own personal brand because I'm a little edgy, I'm a little opinionated, I'm a little loud and aggressive, and that was more interesting to a lot of people than just a brand voice. But if you have a brand that you're growing, that you plan to grow, that's just not going to be based just on you, on this huge, you know, business you're going to build, it makes sense to focus on that brand voice and think ahead. And I don't think I did that really well. So it was always difficult as my company grew to separate that brand from me, right? Because people often wanted to work with me, even though I had 30 employees who were much smarter than I was and could have served the client better. So it depends. Is the brand going to be specifically just based on you as a consultant? Or are you growing this into a larger organization that is not just based on you, which is honestly probably the smarter thing to do. So guys, we got 2 minutes left. What are the last two things you guys would like to say? Hey, Shahzad, I think you're on mute.
If I could start this, so one of the things that at the onset of our conversation, I talked about the fintech startup out of New York City that raised $10 million. One of the biggest things when I talked to the co-founders that they got value in doing video is when we started doing videos for them, we interviewed all the co-founders and talk about their journey and how they pitched the product. We transcribed that for them. And they did an entire rebranding exercise as a result, because what they realized in isolation, when each of them talked about the brand separately and the value proposition, there was a lot of there was a lack of alignment, right? And so I would say one of the hidden benefits of video is if you start engaging your customers for testimonials, you're going to learn things about your startup that aren't so clear or front for you. Same with your team members, your co-founders. So I'd say there's some real gems hidden in your next video project.
And I would say make sure that as you're looking at your budgets for 2020 into 2021, make sure that there's a line for marketing and not just for your website or outreach at networking and whatever that might be, or conferences. Add an element in there, whether it's yourself or hiring a company for video, because people are 85% more likely to buy your product if you have a video element to whatever your marketing materials are.
And the last thing I'll throw in there is that video is an essential part of all of this, but especially when you're in the early phases, multi-purpose these things, like have your videos transcribed, use them as blog posts, cut them into different lengths and use them appropriately on different platforms. And you probably have someone who's doing marketing for you that has at least some notion that you don't put TikTok videos on LinkedIn, right? So at the beginning, video, it's important and it should be part of it, as Sarah said. Always ask yourself the question, is this the best use of my time or my team's time, or should it just be a cash outlay to get a professional working on it?
That's it, guys. Thank you so much. This is Shahzad from DHD Films, Sarah from 1820 Productions, and Levi from Nerd Butler.
Way to go, Eve. You rock star, you.
Thank you, guys.
Mayor Media.
You guys were amazing. Making me $1,000 to go make an amazing and a $500 budget to make an amazing video. So thank you guys for your time. For everyone who is watching, we have a Capital One special marketing panel or session in 5 minutes. It will be on the track session. It is with Brian Tomeo from Capital One. And Dallas Startup Week just tagged all of these lovely people on Instagram. So if you'd like to give them a follow, and thank you guys for joining.
Bye all.
Great morning. Great job, Eve. Loved it.
Sarah, your energy is like beyond.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you very much. Thank
Y'all
you, Kendall,
great
for all your support. I'm just hugging you virtually right now. Great job.
Yes, yes. Bye.
Bye.